Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different repair, and that is on one of these. This is, for those who do not know, a Tomy train. Now, this was a weird range that was introduced in the late 80s, discontinued in the late 90s, and was sort of the global approach to the Tomy brand. We're going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. So, these are fairly rare today, mainly just because they're an older plastic toy. A lot of them degraded away, so trying to find them in decent condition is quite hard. I'll preface by saying this one's not really in the best nick. You can sort of see that it doesn't have most of the paint, only really on this side, but it was part of a lot I bought anyway because I went, you know what, it's piqued my interest. There are of course some problems with it, and we will address these issues as we go. So, let's firstly address the fact that this thing is absolutely filthy. Which was a bit of a trend. I did another, and this was part of a lot I showed off in a previous video. One of the guys I fixed from that lot already was this guy, and he was pretty damn filthy. Also uses the same chassis as this Thomas. Now, there are a few problems with this Thomas. Firstly, the coupling, I don't know why, but it's a TM2 coupling. I do have spare couplings though, so we are going to replace that. Try to figure out where the edge of my camera is, so I don't mess this up. There we go. I'm just going to quickly adjust that. There we go. So, that's it on that, that's it, yep. So, there's that to consider. There's also the fact that this base is just, someone has taken to it with a hacksaw or something, or more likely a Dremel, and it is just, it's just wrecked. So I guess let's just get started. We'll do the body last. So, interesting range. I mean, again, was around for a long time actually. I was going to say not a long time, it was around for a long time. I mean, just about the same amount of time as Tomy. When you think about it, Play-Rail, well, sort of the more Play-Rail derivative ones, they were around, they started getting onto the scene. I know that I've seen them in Australia at least 98, so they were at least available in 98. Maybe a little bit earlier in the West, but we're not talking much earlier. And they were discontinued in 07, 08. It was a weird time. I don't quite understand, but it looks like it's like a lot of the earlier hit toy stuff was just Play-Rail stuff, or Tomy stuff just repatched. I'm not quite sure. My knowledge of that period of history is very fuzzy. Even my memory of that, like as a child, is very fuzzy. It was all a very weird period. Let's remove this base. We can start to look at some of the quirks of the Tomy train system. Okay. One such is this weight. Yeah, this base actually weighs a lot, man. It's because there's this massive dead weight at the back of the engine. Now, there's a lot going on in here, but let's just start by removing everything. Does this have a code? No, it does not. I'm going to hazard and say this is an earlier Tomy trains. The only reason I say that is just because typically the earlier ones have the metal spindles here. I rarely see plastic on these, so I think maybe the Edward I have has plastic spindles, or plastic gear here, I should say. So that's out of the way. So let's talk about what my plan is for this guy. So check the gears, although really with these guys, like that's cracked there a bit. There is not much I can do. They're held together fairly well though, so as long as the gear itself isn't cracked, and that's just cracked, it's fine. It's just a spacer, and that's really all it's doing here. It might be the stress relief actually, but either way it's not a major problem. So we're going to remove this tire if I can. Oh, come on. There we go. I can't remember what the cogs are for. Maybe someone in the comments can tell us. I think that might have been to do with the set. See, these tires aren't terrible. I'm still going to replace them. But now we have to address this. What do we do with this? Now, I've got two options, really. First option is I can just repair it as is, throw it back together, and we can call it a day. Or, I can use this. I do actually have a spare, but I need to transfer some components. So let's get started on that first. First thing I want to do though is remove this. So when you're typically servicing these, you wouldn't actually remove this screw here. It's just on this one we are, because this removes the plastic battery cover. It sort of covers the extra terminal, although I'm not quite sure what it does. I should try that actually, but before that we have to remove these terminals. The easiest way is actually just to clip this in at the back, I believe. Yep. So what you want to do is you want to grab something that's got a fairly thick head. I use a tri-tip. So we'll clip that in. Just push that metal piece in, push it up, remembering to be gentle because these are obviously quite fragile. And same deal on the back. There it is. Come on. I'm trying to remember how this comes out. Should it just like push up here? There we go. So they're both out. Just to give you an idea, those what your terminals look like. You know, this is basically scrap. I mean, I might keep it just for maybe being able to get some other parts off in the future, but really, there's not much you can do with this. Moves us on to this. Now, first thing this needs is a clean. Oh my god, it's dirty. Just going to use some Windex. Actually, I'll use my proper Windex. I don't know if that stuff's actually good. There it is. Okay, got my mug. Okay, let's go over there. Let's get cleaning, because this guy was pretty bad when I got him. It was full of rust, so needs a good clean. Luckily, you can tell most of the interior components aren't too corroded, but there is sort of a thin sort of film overall on it that needs to be tidied off. And it's easier to clean it all with when there's no battery in here, obviously. Now, before I go doing anything else, so do a quick test fit. Yep, okay, I'm just going to quickly test fit this onto the body. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to leave that over there to dry for a minute. We're going to focus our attention onto the other components. It's not the best way to get that out, but it's very, very finicky things. Okay, and that should be all the gears out. Not all the gears, all the screws out. Okay, that can go there. Where is my Q-tips? Little bit of old grease in there. I'd say, if I had to guess how old this is, I'd say very much mid-90s. Gonna quickly remove this. Be very careful with this piece. It likes to do that. Make sure you put that somewhere you can find it again. You do not want to lose that. It's part of the switching mechanism. Clean this out properly. Clean the base a bit. Now what we're going to do is remove these wheels. This is not an essential step. Oh, no, I need to get a bigger screwdriver for that. This is not an essential step, but it's something you may want to consider doing. Simply because these can get pretty gross. A big screwdriver. As you can see, a bit of gunk behind there. We also understand these are a fair bit easier to repair, easier to take apart than your play rail derived. And I have to give these credit, they are a lot more durable than your play rail derived Tomy products. Of course, it always seems to be that that durability comes at the expense of looks. They do look interesting, I'll give them that. I do like how they look. Tomy Trains has to be one of my favourite ranges. But I sort of want to say that Tomy Trains has something a bit, well, how's the best way to phrase this? Because I want to say that it's a technological dead end. That is just, they sort of did all they could do with it, and then that was it. And I think that's kind of the problem with it. It's very much limited in what you can do. I think Thomas really pushed those limitations of Tomy Trains to the limit. And it kind of shows, because Thomas is probably the most interesting Tomy Trains has ever looked, but really highlights those inadequacies of the range, mainly the fact that it's just way too simple. Design-wise, I'd probably put these at the same sort of level as your Trackmaster 2s. Although Trackmaster 2, again, I would say Trackmaster 2's design is a technological dead end, just because there's not much you can do with it either. I mean, it's very much basic. But I think Trackmaster 2 was derived off a slightly better platform. I mean, these are a lot more basic. And I have to wonder whether that's by design or what. It's odd. A lot of credit has to be given to whoever designed Trackmaster 2. Because for what it's worth, Trackmaster 2 is a very elegant solution. So there's my magnet. There you go. Alright, let's have a look at this. So, crack it open. I'm just going to crack it open off camera, sorry. Just because it's easier to do it on the side of the bench. Pop that up. That is a Mabachi, yep. Not actually too bad inside. Fairly durable. Again, these things are fairly durable, especially when you're running on 1.5 volts. Again, need to link that study at some point, or maybe do a video on it. But because it really is an amazing study that someone did on these motors. And again, if you're running on 1.5 volts, these things basically can last forever. It's when you start getting up into the high voltages that you have issues. Although really, 3 volts is when I might try to run this off for demonstration purposes for everyone at home. Isn't going to be that bad either. Again, comes down to just the fact that the motor doesn't really have, again, it's just going to come down to the amount of voltage, how long you get out of these motors. And I think it's a testament to how good they are that even, well, let's say that 30 years on, let's say at the very most for this guy, it's still going to run pretty damn well. Not perfect. But then I always have the question, which I don't pose that much, this question, which is how much play do these things really get? Like, how many hours are they cracking up? You have to wonder that. Oh, fuck. Whoops. Just bent that. I can bend it back. It's not like it's that big of a deal. It's just, it's annoying when I do that. Just bend it. Oh, there we go. Just gonna quickly hold up. I got it. Oh, I dropped it. And back to the studio. Oh crap, I really bent it. Okay. Trying to bend it back is always a pain in the ass. Hold on, let's get some leverage there. That's good. Just get them bent so that they're all right. Well, there we go. That's good. And it's not even on camera. Got to remember that this thing is not quite. There we are. Slight adjustment. I'll just zoom out a little bit. I'll also show you what I've done so far. So just because I've sort of been doing it all down here. One of them, I've cleaned the commutator, which is that little metal piece there, of all the debris off that. What I was just struggling with there was getting these contacts back realigned. clean them off as well. Clean the wheel set. It is cracked, but that's not really a big concern. As well as clean some wheels and your other chassis components, which I'll show off in a bit more detail soon. Either way, let's get a little bit of grease on this. You don't want to have a lot of grease in here, just enough. Just like that much, just like a little bit. Let's throw a little bit of grease down here too. Just to sort of try to get that in there. Because obviously, it's like I would say to everyone who has one of these and is going to service it and wants to service the motor too, don't try to remove the metal gear. You're just going to give yourself a world of trouble. I'm not even saying that from experience. I've tried removing the metal gear. It's a real hassle, and at the end of the day, I gave up. It just wasn't worth it. What you do want to do is though make sure it's very well lubricated, which I'm going to do actually before I put it into the model. Just because obviously you've got metal working on plastic, and those two things don't tend to like each other very much. One's more abrasive, so it's going to damage the other one. I have a few of these to repair, but this will be the only one I'll be repairing today. Okay, get that gunk out. It's like, oh, yeah, weird. Is it copper coated? I'm not sure. What I'm saying is like the middle part is very copper color. That's one. Move on. That's got a bit of hair around its axle. I'll just dip that in there. I would say this thing hasn't had that much wear. You can sort of tell just from how the components have sort of look. It's a lot of filth. Not actually a lot of grime. Although no lubricants, obviously these things really need to service. And again, which is why I always say that you need to service them. If you're going to sell them, you really need to service them. If not for the customer, for your own peace of mind, because... And this goes back to why some major resellers don't even sell these things anymore, is they're just a lot of hassle. It's why prices have gone up so much. It's because so many people just don't repair them, and then they get sold for extortionate prices sometimes. There are some characters I think do deserve to be a bit more expensive. Gordon, for instance, I do think he deserves to start going up. Not because he's anything special, just because the way his plastic's worn over the years, there's just going to be simply a lot less of him out there than, say, your Edwards. Actually, Edwards the same case. Than, say, your Henrys or your Jameses, especially your Jameses. He's one character I'd say, if you can, he's honestly, I'm babbling, sorry. James is a character where you can find him cheap, and you should buy him cheap. I would not pay anything over $40, unless it's, say, a painted face. Which is what I try to do which is what I try to reflect in my own pricing, is that if I wouldn't pay that, why would anyone else? With some exceptions. I mean, sometimes there are characters where simply the market has determined their value, and to go against that is to basically open yourself up to people just buying it to sell it again. Speaking of some interesting purchases, though, I have made a couple. My previous video on this channel was for a Tomy World set, which was interesting. And then today I've spent more on Thomas than I've spent in quite a while, for myself that is. I bought a James Works It Out. A seller called Smokey was selling it. He was selling it for, I think, $30, and I just immediately went buy. Just buy. I'm not even going to fuck around, just buy. Because I don't see them often, and I really want to, well, I really want to look at if he see if he works on them at all. And I mean, even if not, the thing is, with Smokey, he's a seller I've mentioned before, and I have to say I highly recommend him if you're in the market for a cheap Thomas especially Tomy stuff and Trackmaster. The man is, put it this way, he's cheaper than me. And I know using myself as a benchmark isn't the best thing, but my prices tend to be on the mid to low end. So the fact that he's cheaper than me, it says a lot. And like I said, the James Blake stood out was $30. You will not be seeing that on eBay though from me. I'm keeping that one because my God, I've really wanted one. Just because it's a weird piece. And speaking of though, weird pieces, someone was selling a broken flip face James in the States for I think $50 Australian, even shipped. Well, shipped to a place in the US. They can on-ship to me. And I went for about $50. Why hasn't anyone bought it yet? People tend to like and R over the broken ones sometimes, but if it's a character like that where you look at sold listings and he's going for about $150, $200, you just buy it. It's one of those things where I really go for the impulse. I can never remember which way this thing goes back together. Fuck. There is a right way and a wrong way. We'll be right back. Okay, so just to clarify, I opened up another one because I wanted to see which way this gear went in. The fuck? That's not helpful at all. Maybe? Hold up. It's a fucking gear. Okay, I don't know how I'm going to figure this one out, guys, but I'm going to have to figure this one out. Just put this back together quickly and I'll be back. We're just going to wing it. Not a recommendation. Well, hold up. What am I doing? No, obviously it goes this way because that's where the divot is. I'm smart. Okay, now we have this guy. No, first we have this. That spring is tiny. If you lose that spring, you're fucked because that thing is minuscule. The motor goes on top of it. There we go. And then we have to figure out the rest. So I think that goes there. Maybe. Okay. Well, this one's easy because this one you have to put it in that way. Hold up. Always forget this step. Good old. This piece needs to go in first. Okay, then that. Not a lot of room to work in here. Then that. Then that. Then this. Gotta. Like that or like the other way? Maybe it's the other way. No, it has to be this way. Okay. Then this something like that. This might be the other way. I think that might actually be the right way. I think I might have done a video on this before, and you may have noticed in that previous video that I fucked it up as well, and that's just because I don't work on enough of these to have the memory of how they go back together like I do the others. I really should take pictures. I do want to say it's like that. Then okay, let's give this a shot, I guess. Well, we have to finish the top half first, so let's just rest that over here. Let's put this back together now. So this goes in here. Wait, it's clipping up the top. Oh, it does, that's right. Okay, so we've got to kind of like clip it in down there. Push that out a bit. Where's my thick boy? There it is. There we go. We got the other one. Same jazz. There we go. Might try and push this one out a bit more. Okay. Should in a little bit. All about finding that sweet spot. Okay. Let's try and clip this all back together. I guess now we'll test it, see if it works. And where's my double A's? I swear, oh, there's one. I like to switch over sometimes. Gonna kind of like move it up and then. Cool, works. So now all we have to do all that's left to do now is relubricate. Liberally, because there's so much fucking plastic in here. And because no idea when someone else will be in here next. Okay, that'll do. Put this back together. Before we do, actually, let's grab another AA battery. This is what it's like with one AA. If I get the switch to turn. Work with both. Okay. Well, I can't see a difference. So I'm thinking, oh, it's purely a capacity increase. Or maybe there's a higher speed motor that uses it. I'm not entirely sure. My expertise on these is literally, most of my expertise on all the brands I talk about is simply because I've gotten so many of them. So it's all based on quantity. And simply put, I just haven't had enough of these to really comment. Grab that. Screw it back together. Tighten it down. That'll do. I'm going to switch to the on position. Might need to give this a bit more of a clean, but we'll do that once it's back together. Oh, nearly forgot the most important part. Careless of me. Got to put that in the back. Now, this car will probably end up on my store, and I've been thinking about doing something with these Tomy trains for anyone interested, and that is, I'm going to soon be probably putting up in posts where I list them. If you want to option in a standard coupler for these, just your standard Tomy coupler, hell, even if you want to option in like maybe even like a coupler from like a Scruff, which is a bit longer than your standard. In fact, Scruff's coupling would probably work pretty well with these. Just let me know if when you buy it. This will be in my description as well when I list the item, which will just be, yeah, basically if you want to option it for more modern coupling type to sort of use it alongside modern trains, just let me know and I can do that for you. Same goes for the carriages, although the difficulty with the carriages is more just the fact that they've got two You gotta remember, they've got two female ends, so trying to couple them up would require the use of, say, trying to think, the coupling from like an Emily, like that. And the problem is I simply don't have enough of them. So if you were to do something like that, what I'd recommend is if you wanted to run them, maybe get the coupling change for the Thomas, or get the coupling change for the one of the, like the Clarabelle, so you can run things behind Clarabelle. Well, yeah, all hypothetical, of course. No one actually has to do this. If you guys want it, I think I'll offer it, because otherwise you are dealing with a train that's relatively incompatible. And at the end of the day, it's not something I'd charge more for. The reality is the magnets are a lot harder to get now than the plastic couplers. So you're doing me a favor. But again, you don't have to do me a favor. So if you want to keep the magnetic coupling, totally cool too. Just an option you can have, I guess. Okay, that's all back together. Just gonna give it a little bit. That brush is dirty. Okay, let's grab a new brush. The important thing actually is always make sure you have a bunch of new brushes. So when one gets filthy, you can switch pretty easily. Just gonna sort of get in between some grooves I missed. Okay. Those tires aren't too bad, but I'm still going to fit new ones. Because I have no idea how old those are, so at least with new tires I know how old they are. I can trust them that they're not going to stick to anything, because these things will start to degrade faster than you think. So I like to think of traction tires as like car tires. Replace them every... That's on, so turn it off. Yep. Replace them every 6 years or so. You might get more mileage depending on the conditions though, so for me it's just one of those things. I don't know what the conditions these were in were. So put that back in. Very tight, because I put it in the wrong way. That is strong. And working well. So there you have most of it. We'll clean the Thomas body next. But, yeah, look at that. That was just wrecked. I'm not entirely sure why any of this was necessary either. Weird. That is now perfectly operational. Now the body. Now, this is going to just be a very sort of... I'm going to start relatively aggressive. And we're going to move on to some more aggressive on the parts that are already pretty wrecked. Okay, we're off to a good start. Okay, I want to clean the inside of the cab. We're looking a lot better. I'm going to switch to some Q-tips to get some more of the hard to reach, including in the cabs. Well, I think of it is brush is going to get you sort of a wide reach. Your Q-tips are going to get you more that final finish. Hydrating the stickers a little bit more than I probably should, but the stickers are already pretty poor, so it doesn't really matter. don't wonder why someone sold this as part of a parts lot. I mean, this is... It's not great, but I mean, he's not that bad. He's very, very salvageable. I think it's just because some people just sort of don't really worry about the low value stuff anymore. It's all about the high value stuff. And you know, I kind of get that to an extent, but on the same token, not everyone's rich. Not everyone can afford the high value stuff. And sometimes you need to have the stuff in the lower grades available for sale. Because you need to appeal to a lot of people. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Clean up the face a bit. I have to say, credit where credit's due to Tomy trains. One of the nicest things about their models is the faces, and I'll show you this one in a bit more detail once I've finished giving it a bit of a clean up. This one's actually held up quite well. Clean the smoke box area. Reinsert that back in. Sure, I might clean up behind the face first too. The last thing's really just the inside of the body. That's what a sticker would have been, telling you the age. Sadly, it's been removed. Probably one of those things where kid removed it or just got worn off with age. It is just a sticker. Whew. Damn, that's some filth. Hiding in the crevices. Just going to give it a that'll do for now. I might come in later and clean up a bit more in depth. Typically what I'll do is I'll list an item up, then I'll come back when I go to sell it. When it sells, I'll come back and give it a bit more of a clean. Remove any of the dust that's accumulated. Not that there's much, they sit in boxes, so. But also just make sure that any areas I missed get caught. Clean those vents out. Get this face back in and there you have it. There we go. That's pretty damn good. There we have the finished project. There we have the finished product. It's never going to be perfect, but you know what? Let me clean up this space and we'll get this video finished up. And there you have it. There he is. Yeah, there's not really much to say about this guy. They are really, really cool though. And they hopefully aren't getting more common. They don't really come up for sale much, although that might also be a project... I missed the spot. That also might be a product of the fact that... I need to do that cab a bit better. Anyway, I'll do that later. Really a bit of a product of the fact that these are just getting old and they just sort of get lost and they get fragile and they just get destroyed, basically. This is actually a very good example, mainly because it's not yellowed. It's not sun faded, it's not been bleached. It's overall quite nice, actually. The lot also did come with an Annie and Clarabelle, who do need some cleaning. But, other than that, they're there. These are definitely more common than the Thomas, though. Either way, it's nice to see a full, complete set. This will be up for sale on my store eventually. I tend to list things in bulk when I've got a bunch of repairs. It won't be expensive. Let's say $30 on eBay, 20 bucks off. So if anyone's interested, just hit me up and we'll talk. Usually I throw in a bit of the blue track. This would have come with originally as well. So there's that too. Either way, thank you all for watching, and bye for now.